This is more of a draft episode of how we want to approach the series. And like I said, I can just kind of do this off the cuff.
Well, perfect, because I started recording.
Oh, excellent. So this is the first episode / episode 0 of our series. And ultimately, what we'd like to do is share some viewpoints from some fine personnel here who like to get together and game and talk about life and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, we have no credentials.
No. Here's the worst part. We're all male. We're all white. We have no credibility left whatsoever, given society's current state. So everyone, I'm sure, really wants to hear from us.
Just ignore right off the bat. just click away now. Just end it now. If you're thinking about, if you even looked at it, just delete it. Get out of your memory banks, and we're good. We're done.
Run. We have nothing to add as white males to society. We have privileged, very narrow points of view, and we're wrong for thinking we're allowed to think at this point. So we apologize in advance. That being said, we think we have a relatively interesting concept for a show. We've kind of bounced back and forth on ideas, and the one that we've landed on is If I May. And the concept being that when I interrupt somebody or I'd like to interject with a comment, the nicest way I can get in my 2 cents is to say, well, if I may, and then go along with that.
Yeah. So if I may, why don't we just go ahead and jump right into one of our first topics here that we have set up.
I guess you may. So go ahead.
Yeah. So the first one we have set up here is the idea of common sense and how this generation apparently has less of it than previous generations. I know that's kind of like a common saying. I know at one point in time I saw an article that it was kind of like a tricky article. It made you think that it was talking about cell phones, but it was actually from like the 1870s or something like that, and it was talking about newspapers and how the modern youth is boiling their minds by looking at this stuff, instead of talking to people around them.
I think this has been something that's been going on for a number of generations, and I'd be curious if there was ever a generation that existed that wasn't one that looked back and said, well, back in my day it was so much harder and we had to walk to the bus stop, and the other generation before that would be, well, we didn't have buses, we had a horse and buggy, and we had to feed Speedy her oats every morning to make sure she could make it to school. There's all this random nonsense. I mean, at some point you'd have to think, a generation existed that said, "Oh wow, I've bettered things for my generation, and I'm happy they have that."
Well, I think every generation wants to make it better. That way they can, say that, "Oh, my kids had it better than I had it."
Surely, if I may, Kyle, surely you meant to say "if you may" before you just rudely.
If I may, I don't think we need to do it every time. I think it's more of the concept.
All right. Well, we're working on it. We'll figure it out.
Well, yeah. No, I lost my train of thought. Thanks. I was going somewhere with that. But I think everybody. I mean, obviously there was a generation that was just grunting, and they were cavemen, and that didn't work out too well for them. But everybody's got a little bit easier as technology progresses and life moves forward, and the human race learns more and more.
Yeah, I'm curious to see, just in general though, like what is the point where prior generations look back or look forward rather, because they're always looking forward and saying, oh, they didn't have it as hard as I had it, or they're never going to be able to figure it out, and we all are here. And granted, I could say a lot about society and where it's going into the toilet and what have you, but at what point do you look forward and say, okay, it's not about like how hard it was or wasn't for someone else. They can still succeed and figure everything out. Like, I'd like to go back to, make America great again. Let's get political. That'll be fun. Basically go and think back and say, okay, well, I really want to support my family and not just my family. I mean, think beyond the core, traditional families. I want to support the population, not America, but more like the world. And say, okay, what can I do to make it a better place? And I think that's something, despite all the horrible garbage about inclusion and participation trophies and all that sort of nonsense.
Yeah, if I may here. I know one of the popular things popping up on YouTube, or I just watched the whole series, is the Cobra Kai. I don't know if you've seen it at all, but it's a play off of the Karate Kid. It is first of all hilarious. There's a couple episodes in there. I'm wondering if they didn't quite do them in order as far as recording, because there's like, especially towards the end, the last episode, the acting's a little hokey, but then some of the earlier ones are super good, so it's a little mixed bag. But one of the big things is
it's Cobra Kai. What is this?
Yeah, so it's a split off the Karate Kid. So it's basically the Karate Kid, the 80s movie, but like 50 years later. So they're both dads, and it actually uses the original Karate Kid and the original quote unquote bad guy. So right now, the bad guy, the blonde kid from the original movie, he's now the pseudo good guy, or he's the main character that you're following around. So it's him like 50 years in the future, 40, 50 years in the future. The Karate Kid has kids. He's successful. He owns a car dealership, and this guy is kind of just a bum to a sense. He's an alcoholic.
If I may, is that the peak of success? Owning a car dealership?
For the Karate Kid, it is. He kicks the other competition or something like that. There's definitely some hokey stuff going on, but it's pretty funny. But one of the big things, if you go and watch the trailer, is that he has the new generation of kids. He starts his own dojo, and he's got the new generation of kids in there, and he's making fun of them and like, oh, the split lip here. You gotta mess something messed up with your face. Like, dude, his like main pupils like, you can't say that kind of stuff. So what are you talking about? Toughen him up. So it's set in modern times from the Karate Kid era, and so it's kind of funny. You see that generational difference, and it's actually they have a lot of, they're on the edge there of politically correctness, but they do the comedy in such a good light that I don't think there's anybody that's really going to have a huge issue with it, because it's making fun of the fact that you can't say that kind of stuff anymore without offending somebody.
Yeah. I think there's if I may, I think there's a lot of material along that exact train of thought, and certainly I can appreciate, as much as the next person, a good comedy that touches on some real key topics like that. I think we should probably do a separate episode on different comedies that are making fun of different areas. I think I'd touch on Scrubs, maybe touch on what are some good comedies that I can think of here.
I've never seen Scrubs.
Netflix. You've never seen Scrubs?
Yeah, if I may, I apologize.
If I may, you need to watch Scrubs immediately.
Is it on Netflix?
I don't know if I can do this recording with you anymore. This is I don't know if it's on Netflix or not. It's just a classic comedy, and I'm pretty sure you and Juliana would both love it, actually.
Similar to like The Office. I've seen episodes of The Office, but I've never like watched The Office.
Yeah, I'm in that same category, unfortunately. I know that's a good comedy for a lot of different reasons, and I'm certainly up with all the pop culture and the memes and the other nonsense that result out of that. So all of those do make sense to me, but I wouldn't claim to be an Office expert. I know a lot of people have watched that show, or rather that series, several times through on Netflix. It's the quote unquote popular thing to do. But yeah, I think that's something we could touch on, just our favorite comedies, favorite other shows. I know I'm a huge Game of Thrones fan.
Oh, of course. I think, if I may, I think one of the main topics of the podcast when the next Game of Thrones season comes out would be Game of Thrones.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I would absolutely be on board with doing some Game of Thrones content. I know it's already heavily done, and I'm a huge fan of a number of channels that are on YouTube that stream almost exclusively Game of Thrones content, whether it's books and or show. Secrets of the Citadel is a lot of fun to watch. Talking Thrones, they have way too many spoilers, but I'm addicted, so I can't stop watching.
Well, they're now past the books, so everything's pretty fresh.
Yeah, but I guess there's a group called Watchers on the Wall, and these are people like entirely dedicated to identifying the spoilers and figuring things out. So between all of the information going through those various parties, I'm very up to date on what's supposed to happen, I guess. Some would say that it ruins it. I would just say that, even if I know the story, it's still going to be really, really cool to see it all happen.
Yeah, so if I may, we'll have to hold the door open for that one and see what
beyond my Game of Thrones rant, if I may, there are certainly other shows I'd like to discuss that are on Netflix that we can cover in some brief passing. There's Blue Mountain State. Certainly, there's Spartacus.
Spartacus
series there
is awesome. It's got nudity. It's got blood and like fighting.
It's got everything.
These are a few of my favorite things.
Rewatching Spartacus lately in the mornings is kind of something to do while I'm having my breakfast. So
While you're having my breakfast.
Yeah. Nothing better than watching a bunch
Spartacus.
of
It's just a breakfast thing.
Yeah, it's whatever.
Couple gladiators just slaughtering each other. Yeah, whatever. A little bit of nudity in the morning.
Be game
nudity and gore in the morning. Yeah.
Look at all of the options and all the shows and kind of put together a recommendations list or discuss the pros and cons. But one of the things that we definitely wanted to talk about today, if I may, would be modern gaming. And one of the things we had kind of highlighted and outlined that we wanted to discuss was what is modern gaming doing for friendships? What is it doing for the idea of me growing up in the 90s, and I would go over to my neighbor's house and we would play on a console. We'd hang out together. We'd play Mortal Kombat. We'd play the classic Mario games. You would go over to a friend's house and you would play games. And with the way systems are going, I understand technology and internet and the instant ability to connect to an entire world of people who you'll never actually meet is fantastic in a lot of ways. But is it bringing us together, or is it pulling us apart?
I would like to, if I may, I think there's two main topics here. There's number one, I think we can talk about our particular situation. I think that's kind of interesting as far as, like, for us, I'm in Wisconsin, you are in Minnesota, and one of our other good friends that'll be joining us for some of these podcasts is going to be out in Seattle. And actually, I'm very soon going to be in Colorado. So that's not going to really work out too well as far as being able to see each other at all and being good friends. We like to stay in touch. And so I think gaming in general is one of those things that definitely gives us that time together and hanging out, where without modern gaming, I don't think that would really be possible. Second topic would be just the online friends thing in general. I guess me personally, I have not had like a friend that I've met online and I'm only friends with that person online. I guess is that something that you've experienced?
I cannot say that I have a good friend that I would put in that category. I would say that I have certainly met many people and added friends on various games. Fortnite is really easy to just add someone that you like to play with, or was a fun companion who you thought played fairly or assisted you in any way, shape, or form, or even carried you if you're not the best player in the world. But and I can think back to Call of Duty and the other classic games with shooters where you would potentially add someone who was really good, or if you were able to support them and they appreciated it, they might try and add you and play with you some more. Which sounded way dirtier than it was. I apologize.
If I may, I would say that Call of Duty. now that you mentioned that, I think that's definitely one of the ones that I definitely had the most kind of online friends for. Because remember, I didn't get an Xbox until literally my freshman year of college, and that's pretty much right at the trail end of Black Ops 1, and then Modern Warfare 3 released. So I played the crap out of Modern Warfare 3, which isn't, in hindsight, that good of a game, but that's still my favorite one just because it was the first one that I had a lot of experience with. And I definitely remember there's a couple guys that I would play with almost every single night that I'd never met in real life. We'd hang out. But
exactly.
It's one of those things too where don't know their real name, haven't talked to them.
If I may, have you seen Ready Player One?
I have seen Ready Player One and read the book. I read the book twice before I even saw the movie.
Oh, you read books? What a nerd.
Dude, have you not read the book?
Fortunately, I have not read the book, and nor do I have a whole lot of interest in it.
Pause. If I may,
I'm just lazy.
Your future wife is like a book nerd, and I will be very disappointed in you if you do not read that book. That is one of the best books I have ever read.
And if I may, the disappointment can begin now. Anyway,
disappointment in what?
In me.
Oh, you're not going to read it?
Unless you provide a copy during hunting season, which is the only time I crack open a book for leisure, as one would say.
What is your viewpoints in audiobooks? I can forward you the audiobook right now.
Audiobook I would potentially do. I have to sit in the office and work all day long. All right. So
you'll have to text me your Amazon whatever email you want me to send it to.
Yeah, let's do that not on the podcast.
No, but I think the podcast agrees you need to read this book.
Understood. Anyway, if I may continue with our train of thought here, you may have had online friends and it may have worked out, but you never get a real connection, and maybe people do. I guess I don't think I've ever looked for that. I've always had enough friends, but without trying to sound like I'm the cool kid on the block, because everyone knows I'm not. It's just I've never had to reach out as my only venue to get friends. But there may be kids or people out there, adults even, who this is their main interaction. They can be somebody online in the sense that anyone online in Ready Player One, the movie version, which I'll get the book later if you're going to send it to me. It allows them to establish a friend base. But even then, it's like one of the big taboos is you never tell anyone what your real name is. You never give out that information because you never know who's out there.
I think, if I may, I know Ready Player One definitely takes it to the extreme where your entire life is pretty much in this game. If you read the book, pretty much they literally go to school in the game, they work in the game, like everybody's life is in the game. There's like 90% of your time is in the game, the rest of your time is spent sleeping. So I guess that's a little bit of an interesting for Ready Player One, but even today, I would say there's definitely a little bit of that, especially with especially this I guess quote unquote single crowd that you don't really have too many opportunities to go around and hang out with people. That's an easier way to meet people, or quote unquote people to hang out with and have that social aspect that I think all humans need.
Yeah, I would agree with that statement.
Sorry, I think you were going somewhere else with that.
No.
Interrupted.
No, you're good. You pulled me off. I'm just mostly offended. It's whatever.
What? Offended by what?
No. Everything. I am offended by everything. Circling back to the initial train of thought again, though. You're sitting here and you're kind of wondering, who has these online friends? Are they real friends? I mean, obviously, in our context, we use the platforms to stay connected to friends that we know in reality. Friends that we've had, consist of people that we like to play a game with, and I don't think it goes much beyond that. There may be people who do that, but the core argument or statement we were kind of fishing at is basically stating, are games bringing people together or pulling them apart? Historically, for me, they brought people together. They brought me together with my friends. I would have to go over to their house. We would play, the game sitting next to one another with the ability to have two people on the same console. And yes, it's nicer that everyone has their own screen, and you would have LAN parties, and everyone would bring over their Xbox and or their TV, depending on how many TVs you had at the house. But what are games doing today? I mean, they're kind of pulling us apart in a sense that you don't go to someone's house and hang out. You just call them online, which is nice, but it's kind of like, what is Facebook doing for society today? There's the new commercials that are all kind of propaganda based, trying to say they're managing your data better and blah 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 because they got in trouble with the government. But in reality, people are addicted to social media, and what is that really doing? You have people who are growing up, children who are addicted to social media. I'm a huge fan of Simon Sinek, who has some great leadership things for business, and without going full business mode on people, one of the things he addresses in one of his talks is dopamine. The drug that you get anytime you feel joy. Essentially, it's a hit of dopamine, and children are getting, and adults. Gosh, not even the kids. I mean, even a lot of adults.
There's lots of moms that are on Facebook that shouldn't be.
Oh, yeah. Well, on Facebook and on too often. The idea that everyone's on Instagram, on Facebook, and they want to post like they're living this perfect life.
Yeah, and if you didn't reply in 5 minutes, what are you doing? Like, what the heck?
Yeah, if I didn't get 50 likes on my picture of me out in the park with my dog,
I'm a failure.
It didn't matter. I wasn't dressed well enough. People didn't care, and what's my world coming to? And then you have people who are looking at that thinking, oh, God, why am I not at the park with my dog? I'm a horrible person. Excuse me.
Well, yeah, there's definitely I think there's a commercial on it. There's a difference between like gloating and where it's like, oh, look at me at the park, I'm so cool, versus hey, I'm at the park, wish everybody else was here.
But if I may, it's keeping us together in a sense, but I would argue it's also tearing us apart. Like, there are the advantages where you have people you actually know that you have connections with, and it's nice to have Facebook and Instagram or whatever to see what they're up to. But I think my fear for future generations is that you're going to have people who are so connected that they're disconnected. You know, the old adage of I'm standing in a crowd of people and I feel so alone. Now,
well, I know, like, even 2 weeks ago, if I may, I know, like, 2 weeks ago, I went to work, I got out of the car, I'm like, crap, I don't have my cell phone. It was the first time in about 5-6 years that I went a whole day without my cell phone. I mean, I had to not text, but like I emailed my wife and my mom, be like, hey, just so you know, don't have my phone on me today. Totally forgot it at home, and I live like 40 minutes away from where I work, so going home was not an option even during a lunch break or something. So I know it was definitely a interesting thing to like look at
the fact that you would even consider going home for lunch to get your phone is a bit ridiculous, but it does show how connected everyone is and or feels that they need to be on a regular basis.
Yeah, it was one of those things where, my previous place of living was 5 minutes from work, so that is totally justifiable in my mind, considering, typically I go out for lunch anyway, just to kind of get that break from the grind of work and, get away from the computer screen and that kind of thing. But yeah, just going that whole day without my phone, it was kind of eye-opening of like crap, like I would normally look at my phone for this, and I'm going to have to go and just, talk to somebody or look it up on the computer. Instead, like, bathroom breaks were a whole lot shorter.
Yeah, if I may, there have been a number of comedians, seeing as I listen to comedy most days when I'm at work, to keep myself sane. There have been a number of comedians who address that issue. Going to the bathroom, there's probably not a single person who, when they go to take a poop, isn't on their phone.
Statistically, it's not. Yeah, if I may, I think statistically, it's one of those things where I think it's a 10-minute bathroom break a day equals a full work week over the course of a year.
Oh yeah, no, I wouldn't be surprised at all. But yeah, number of people who bring their phones into the bathroom. It's a bit gross. You wash your hands, but you don't really think about the fact that you were holding your phone the entire time you were in there. Phones are absolutely disgusting. That's the moral of that story. But it's not even just on the number 2 stall, if you will.
Yeah, if I may, also, just a quick butt in is think about that. Next time you borrow somebody's phone, just think they pooped and wiped their ass and then held their phone, and then now you're touching it and putting it against your face.
Well, yeah, it's because people are using their phones in the bathroom and they're not thinking about it. And then, yeah, anytime you touch someone's phone, you've basically shook their hand when they're off the bathroom pot.
Yeah, right. You have dick hand on your face.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. Well, if I may, I'm wondering if there's ever been a study on like how long bathroom going to the bathroom has taken now versus before the cell phone, like before.
I don't know about the bathroom timing. I would bet large sums of money that's in the same department. But I do know, and I have read articles that restaurants are having a huge issue because everyone wants to post on Instagram what they're eating and take pictures of the food, and the people who are eating at these restaurants are complaining that their food's not coming out fast enough, or when they finally get it, it's cold. And they basically were able to point out the root of the issue being that people were on their phones, they were taking pictures of the food, they were wasting all their time and going like that. So it's slowing down service, it's creating a lot of issues, and ultimately it's self-inflicted as far as these people complaining about the service or quality of these restaurants, that it has nothing to do with the restaurant. It's, people being idiots and needing to post everything on Instagram.
Yeah, the whole taking pictures of food in general, I think, is real dumb. I think if you go to because if you go to a fancy restaurant, you probably shouldn't have your phone out. You should be, you're at a fancy restaurant. But if you go to like McDonald's, that's not worth taking a picture of. Like, I guess I can't think of any scenario where it would make sense. Maybe if you made something yourself. Okay, I'll give you that one. If you made something yourself and you're proud of it, yes, you can take a picture of it and post it wherever. But restaurants, no. Like, you didn't do anything there. The restaurant did it. You shouldn't be taking a picture of your food. I mean, yeah, the only acceptable picture in my mind at the restaurant is during a birthday. You have somebody doing something silly. Got to get a video or a picture of that. Or if it's like a group photo of like family where you're going out to eat. Like Mother's Day just happened recently. And we took a nice picture of all of us at the table with mothers, with my mom and my grandma. So, that's the kind of thing where, that's acceptable.
At any rate, did we want to touch on microtransactions today, or did we want to wrap this up as a episode 0?
I think we can hit up microtransactions. If we talk for about 5 more minutes, we'll hit the 30-minute mark, and I think that'll be
Yeah, I'm actually playing Fortnite right now, and I mean this is the most recent phenomena as far as game that's out there, and everyone needs to play it. And it's been kind of fun to learn about the game and see everything that's happening. But it blows my mind that kids are using their parents' money to buy all this crap on a game.
And the parents are letting them.
Yeah, and the fact that parents would let him is just a bit ridiculous. And I actually have a little kid talking in the background right now saying that he doesn't use his parents' money, but his voice tells me otherwise, so I'm just going to let him go. I know you guys can't hear that, so that's low-hanging fruit, but it's still hilarious to me, and I thought I'd share. But that being said, you're looking at games that are making all of their money off of microtransactions. Now, one I'm a bigger fan of would potentially be League of Legends. I don't think there's a cost to play that up front, is there?
No, there's zero cost. So I think there's definitely two kinds of microtransactions. There's the pay to win and pay to look cool. Now,
yes,
games like
Fortnite,
Fortnite and League of Legends both are, or League of Legends for the most part, I can get into that in a second, are in general pay to look cool. If you want to pay extra money and look cool, that's totally fine with me. If somebody can pay money and beat me, if you go into a game that's free, I know there's a bunch of Steam games that kind of suffer from this. I know it's a little bit of an older game, but PlanetSide 2 is ruthless for that. Is somebody can go in, pay money, and there's nothing you can do. Like, you can be the best player in the world. They come at you with a tank that they just bought for $10, and you're wrecked. Like, you can't, there's nothing you can do. So there's that kind of thing. And then there's also, I guess there's a third one where it's a pay to advance quicker, where it's that's kind of where League of Legends kind of falls in between there, of the pay to advance quicker and then pay to win. Because League of Legends, you unlock the champions, which you can go over time by earning credits in game. But if you pay extra money, or if you pay real world money, you can unlock some characters faster.
Burn, though.
Yeah. So you can unlock stuff faster. It doesn't make you better. It's like League of Legends. There's all the different champions. There's like 100 or so. There's not one that's necessarily better than the others. It's just kind of a situational thing. So I think that's it's not as bad as like.
If I may, the games that really bother me most are the ones that these stay-at-home moms who sit on their phones all day and play some sort of silly gambling game, or they're playing Farmville or whatever the game might be, and you're just sitting here shaking your head saying you just spent real money so that you could do something in a world that's completely fake, and you have the biggest, baddest farm on Farmville, and you're just kind of like, okay, what have you accomplished? I mean, I guess it's hard for even me to see the difference between a game that I enjoy playing and something like that, where it's like, okay, well, I'll sit here and spend money on a League skin, and that makes sense. But if you ask me to spend money on, some sort of nonsense in Farmville, I'm like, well, what am I accomplishing? Nobody wants anything in Farmville. That's just dumb.
Right. Like, if I may, I think one of the things is the games that don't take much skill or thought. I don't know. To me, I guess I'm not interested in the game. It's like slots or something like that. Because that's basically just like a cheap, stupid video game. You're putting money in and hoping for the best. Like Farmville, like, granted, I'm sure there's some Farmville expert that's like, whoa, there's way more than that. But you're planting crops and farming it. I think one of the other big offenders is the best recent example is the new Harry Potter game. I don't know if you played that at all on Android or iPhone, but it's one of those games that you're literally waiting to do a chore. Like, all this game is a chore. I know the Harry Potter game does have some like storyline behind it, so that you might find that interesting. But the whole like, oh, wait 10 minutes for your next ability to do something.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or pay now to be able to do it now. It's stupid. You're wasting your money.
Anything that has Harry Potter on it's gonna still sell like crazy is this silly thing.
Oh yeah, it's all that brand. There's Justice League stuff and the Marvel, they have they all have a version of that game. Even Game of Thrones just released a game where it's the same stuff.
Some moron in Silicon Valley is making anything and everything a game right now, hoping they'll hit it big. And sad fact is, some of them get it right, and some of them get it even reasonably and get paid at all. It's kind of a joke, but the capabilities out there, and there's enough tech nerds who can put something together, just find the right niche, and hopefully it blows up. But
I think there are some, especially mobile games, I think are the biggest microtransaction offenders, because nobody wants to pay for a game without having tried it. And mobile games, it's kind of since the beginning has had the expectation of they shouldn't cost anything, or they should be like $3 maximum. So that's where somebody who spends a decent amount of money to make a mobile game, they pay developers and they put a lot of time into the game. They want to get their money back. Microtransactions make more sense for them. I think there's some games that do it fairly well. A fairly popular example being Clash of Clans, where it's a smart game. It does take some strategy, but then they put in enough microtransaction stuff to make it worth your while to maybe throw a couple bucks at it.
Yeah, and I can respect it as long as it's not that you need to have this in order to be successful at the game. I can support microtransactions, but if you, as we've just already covered, if you need it to advance quickly, or if you're going to get blown out by somebody who spent $2-3, it's really just a waste of time.
No, I know there's a Battlefield has a kind of interesting thing, because once the game has been released for a year or two, they'll release battle packs, so you can pay. So it's kind of like Call of Duty, how you level up your guns to advance through ranks, and then you unlock more stuff. In Battlefield, they have an interesting strategy where after about a year or so, they'll release battle packs where for the 4 different classes you can pay to just unlock everything.
If I may, did you play Destiny at all when that was big?
I played the original Destiny. I didn't get super into it, but I have played it, yes.
I played Destiny with my roommate, and he and I would get home from work, and we would grind at that game all night long. We, beat all the bosses, did everything you could, and that concept, I don't know if that's a microtransaction, but I'll say that's flirting with it, with respect to they sell you, half of a game or even a third of a game, and sit there and let you play through it, and that's their big release, and then whether it's like 6 months or a year later, they then release like phase 2, and they make you essentially buy the game again, except there's a slightly new expansion, a new creation of the story beyond that, and nothing turned me off faster to that type of game than to release it in that manner. If I go ahead and buy your game, I don't care how much content. I mean, I guess that's not a true statement. If you released enough content to justify a whole new game and the expense, I would absolutely be on board. But the fact is that when they released the content, it was one new story, a couple new armors, and a couple new guns, and a few tweaks here and there. It wasn't anywhere near enough to justify the expense of basically buying the game over to take it to the next level.
So another bad offender of that is Call of Duty. So the game that stopped me...
I haven't played Call of Duty in years.
I know. The game that stopped me was Black Ops 3. For Black Ops 3, I bought like the best pack or whatever, like the $100 job, the everything pack. And from previous Call of Duties, my expectation was that I pay this premium price up front. I'm going to save money in the long run. I don't have to buy all the expansions or all the bonus maps, and I get everything, guns, everything, because that's how it was in the past. And all of a sudden, you have the loot crate junk, where you have to go through, and I don't get every single gun. I have to try to hopefully get it from a loot crate. And loot crates, somewhere, I mean, there's the infamous Battlefield or Star Wars Battlefront 2 now that had the god awful.
Well, that upset a lot of people as far as microtransactions.
I have not bought Battlefront 2, and I love Battlefront 1.
I'm really glad I didn't. I would have enjoyed playing that game.
I was very close, but yeah, I bought Battlefront 1, loved it, played a lot of it. But yeah, Battlefront 2, once I heard about that, it's like, at some point you got to just not buy the game to prove a point. And I think I took that stance on that game.
No, I can support that 100%. I mean,
and that's also why I haven't bought a single Call of Duty since Battlefield or Black Ops 3. Sorry. Go ahead.
For my own health and management, it's probably best that I don't have any more Call of Duties. I've been playing those forever. But back in high school, that was the cool thing to do. But based on everything I've heard and seeing, I really don't feel like I'm missing out on anything there.
No. So I think that's a pretty good wrap right there, unless you had something you're about to add in.
No, I was just going to say the Star Wars one was absolutely huge, and that upset one of the most loyal fan bases that's out there, and the idea that you would have to grind as long as they wanted you to in order to get certain characters. I mean, I'm okay, make them play for a certain amount of time, like go through a tutorial and maybe even I think if I think back to Modern Warfare 2, and I'm sure it was in other ones, the prestige system or something like that, where you essentially quote unquote beat the game, you reach the max level. Okay, then unlock everybody at that point. But from the sound of it, I think they were saying in order to unlock even a single, Jedi level character, and I haven't played it, so I don't know for certain. So please take everything I'm saying with a grain of salt. But everything I was hearing was saying you would have to play for days, nonstop, essentially, in order to have even one of these characters be playable for you, unless you were willing to spend money.
And you only have the certain odds of getting it. So you even that's the other thing. If you spend money, you don't even know what you're going to get.
Okay, I didn't know it was an odds thing too.
Yeah, and the odds were god awful. So it was like if you bought 10 crates, your likelihood of getting one of the powerful Jedi guys or the cards for it was less. You're not guaranteed to get it. So you can spend $50 and get nothing that you want.
Yeah, that's unreal if that's what it was, and I don't doubt it. It's all about making a buck, and the first person who's going to get screwed out of that is the fans, unfortunately. But no, I think that's a good wrap for our first go at this. Covered a lot of topics, mentioned some things we'd like to discuss in the future, and obviously it's just the two of us for now. But we'd like to loop Brent in. This is a test run for what we'd like to.
By the way, if I may, my name is Kyle. We never covered that.
Oh yeah, introductions. Well, I suppose we could have some sort of cool screen name, but actual names would work just fine.
I think first names are good.
My name is Nick. This is Kyle. And,
it's not Nick. Don't lie to
Brent
them.
will be our counterpart. Yes, Nick, the most inconspicuous name possible. It's definitely not that. No, but we'll look to figure out some key discussion points and put some stuff together. Get Brent involved when he's back from Seattle. And kind of get a regular thing going on. I think it'll work out nicely.
Yeah, I know.
We can mix
a couple other future topics. Maybe we'll throw that. Couple other future topics. So I guess another little maybe episode 1 we can start with our backgrounds a little bit so people kind of get it. But Nick is accountant, so he's got a lot of business and that kind of insight. Brent is a wildlife ecologist. He's got his master's in that, so he's got a lot of outdoorsy stuff, and I'm a mechanical engineer, so got a lot of technology and sciencey kind of stuff. So I think we got a pretty good spread of.
If I may, all I'm hearing is we're 3 adult white males. I don't think anyone wants to listen to us.
Yeah, so we have 0. Yeah, so if I may, we should probably just stop this now.
We should probably just end it. Yeah, nobody wants to hear us.